Hi, first graders. I have a great story to share with you. It's called Adopted by an Owl, the true story of Jackson the Owl. And it's written by and illustrated by two people that live in Michigan, and they live just north of Lansing, by Robin and Nick Gilsbert van Frankenhuizen. And what's so great about this book is the author signed it for us. It says, to Mrs. Groenboom's class, enjoy Jackson's story, Robin and Nick van Frankenhuizen. So I'd like to share this with you now, especially since we're studying animal classification and birds. And an owl is a bird. Thump, 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 thump. Nick's eyes popped open. Just moments ago, he was pleasantly drifting off to sleep, but a sound like someone walking across the rooftop woke him, and now he lies silent and alert, listening and waiting. Then came a familiar hoot, hoot, hoo, hoo, hoot, hoot, hoo, hoo. Could it be that his friend had come back? It all began years ago when a young boy stole a great horned owl chick from its nest. Bundled up against the cold March wind, the boy retraced his steps into the woods. For over a week, he had secretly watched the great horned owl parents feed their young. But as he stared up the giant tree, he began to have doubts about robbing the nest. The nest was higher than he remembered. Taking a deep breath, he took one last look to make sure the parents were nowhere near, then tucked a burlap bag into his belt and began shimmying up the tree. Woodland creatures watched in silence as the intruder grabbed the frightened owlet from the safety of his nest and stuffed it into the bag. Its frightened screech pierced the air, warning the nearby parents of danger. The boy clung tighter to the tree as the returning parent swooped close to his head. Twice he nearly dropped the captured owl. As the protective parents continued their daring attacks, the boy began his long climb down the tree. The moment his feet hit solid ground, the boy raced for home, dodging the endless attacks of the furious birds. In the secrecy of his bedroom, the boy emptied the bag onto his bed. The frightened owlet clacked and hissed at the stranger. Without a single care for the well-being of the young owl, the selfish boy smiled and thought to himself, now this is a pet no one else has. As the owl grew, so did his appetite, and the boy quickly discovered that wild animals were never intended to be pets. Having an owl wasn't fun, it was work. It wasn't long before he realized he didn't even want the owl anymore. Soon after, Nick, with his special license to care for owls, came to take the young bird to a new home. The car ride was a novel experience. Balanced on the headrest of the passenger seat, the curious owl stared out the window. As the car pulled into the driveway, the kitchen door flew open and out ran two young girls. "Where is he? Where is he?" they both squealed. They huddled around the new arrival, eagerly discussing a proper name for the bird. Faster than you could say bouncing, bobbing ponytails 4 times, the dimpled girl smiled and announced, "His name is Jackson." As if on cue, Jackson hooted his approval. Jackson was too young and inexperienced to live on his own. Until he was ready to be set free, a large cage would be his home. Nick was amazed at how easily the young owl accepted his new family. They spent many months together becoming friends. But the time finally came when Jackson was ready to go. After saying his goodbyes, Nick opened the door and the owl flew confidently into the night, and Jackson was on his own. Days later, as Nick walked in the winding paths of his farm, he spotted Jackson following him like a silent shadow from above. It seemed Jackson had decided to stay on. From then on, Jackson became a permanent part of the family. He accompanied Nick on every walk, greeted him when he returned home from trips, and if he was hungry, he reminded Nick it was time to eat. They became best buddies. During the cold winter nights, the owl began offering Nick mice that he proudly caught himself. At first, Jackson hooted and waited patiently on the balcony railing for his friend to come out. Nick accepted the gift with thanks, offering it back to the owl the next morning. And there's a mouse right there that Jackson is giving to Nick. And there's another mouse. But as time passed, Jackson's trust for the family grew stronger. One evening, there came a tap, tap, tap on the glass door. Confused and sleepy-eyed, Nick opened the door. There, standing at the entrance, was Jackson, holding a mouse in his beak. With a little coaxing, he walked into the room and dropped the mouse into Nick's open hand. His long talons made a sharp click, click, click sound as he waddled across the wooden floor and back out the door. Jackson didn't always bring mice, and the family wasn't always pleased with his gift. He was curious about the chickens and pigeons living on the farm and often flew into their coops. The birds did not enjoy Jackson's visits. The owl did not like the dogs and cats who shared the farm with him, and he took every opportunity to chase them away. None of the dogs or cats were too big for Jackson, but he never hurt them. Every morning, as the first rays of sunlight filtered through the pine needles, Jackson woke his friend with a hoot, hoot, hoo, hoo from his special tree next to the house, and Nick would hoot back. They often talked to each other this way. Sometimes he enjoyed getting wet in the rain. It was like a refreshing shower cleaning his feathers. But other times he preferred to stay dry. In the winter, icy winds blew layers of snow upon his body, but he didn't mind. He would snuggle deeper into his feathers like a sleeper under a down quilt. Mother Nature, God, gave him earth colors in patterns of browns and grays for camouflage. He tucked his body tightly against the tree trunk and used his bark-colored feathers to stay hidden. But in the springtime, no matter how hard Jackson tried to hide, birds still found him. Busy songbirds, building nests and raising families, did not like him. Blue jays, cardinals, robins, and even the tiniest chickadees fearlessly attacked the big owl. The brave little bird swooped angrily around Jackson, plucking his feathers from his head to make him go away. Aww. Crows were the only birds able to chase Jackson from his tree. They pestered him until he flew away. A lone blue spruce just at the edge of the meadow was a safe haven for him. He burrowed deep into the branches, safe from the bullying crows. And if Nick happened to pass below, Jackson would hoot at him, soft enough so that the crows could not hear, but loud enough to say to him, "Hello, friend, I'm here, safe and sound." Becoming a member of the family meant new responsibilities for Jackson. Each day, he made sure the two young girls boarded the school bus safely, and he stood guard outside their bedroom window every night until pleasant dreams filled their sleep. But then, one spring day, Jackson was missing, and Nick had a terrible feeling something might be wrong. He searched all of the owl's favorite hiding places and finally found him under the blue spruce. Trying to stay calm, Nick spoke softly to Jackson. "Shh, everything will be all right. I'm here now." At the sound of his friend's soothing voice, the injured owl let out a whisper of a hoot. It was all he had left for Nick, and then Jackson collapsed. Nick rushed the frail bird to a special hospital that cares for injured owls. The doctor took an x-ray of Jackson's leg and showed it to Nick. "Well, we'll never really know for sure," he said, "but I think your owl was probably hit by a car." The doctor put a large cast on Jackson's broken leg and gave him special medicines that would help the leg heal faster. Oh, look at the cast. While in the hospital, Jackson refused to eat from anyone but Nick, so it became his daily ritual to visit the recovering owl at 10 o'clock every morning. "I'm here, my friend," announced Nick. An excited hoot could be heard coming from the long caged line wall. In typical owl fashion, Jackson bobbed his head up and down and all around to greet his best friend. It was as if he were announcing, "Finally, I thought you'd never get here." For months, these visits kept Jackson from becoming frightened or lonely. At last, the day came when the cast was removed and Jackson could go home. Nick helped the owl do special exercises every day to make his legs strong, hoping Jackson soon would be able to fly free again. Nick kept Jackson in a cage outside his home while he was mending. At night, Jackson began talking to other owls. Many nights, 2 or 3 wild owls would talk to him long into the early morning hours. Perhaps it was his stay at the hospital in the company of other injured owls that helped him realize who he really was. It saddened Nick to think his special friend might leave, but he knew in his heart that the choice must be Jackson's. He loved the large bird and wanted what was best for him. Finally, after a long time, Nick felt Jackson was ready to be set free. He opened the cage door and, with Jackson perched on his arm, said, "The time has come to stretch your wings and fly proudly." Everyone held their breath. Would he remember his old neighborhood? The owl took flight, soaring gracefully over the farm. The family smiled with relief as they watched him fly again. Just then, a hoot from the nearby woods called to Jackson, and without a single look back, he was gone. From the very beginning, Nick knew this time would come. He remembered the car ride home many years ago when the young owl perched so confidently on the seat. He knew even then that Jackson was a very special bird. After Jackson left, Nick spent many quiet evenings sitting on the balcony. He smiled as he remembered all the special times he shared with the owl and was a little sad that those times were over. But then, one night, as the family began drifting into their dreams, Nick awoke to a thump, 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 like someone walking across the rooftop, and heard a familiar hoot. As he stepped out onto the balcony, Jackson swooped low and landed in his favorite tree next to the house. Jackson had heard the call of the wild, and his natural instinct was to be with other owls like him. But he had spent too many years living with his human family, and the pull to come back was too strong, and they both knew he was home for good. For the rest of his life, Jackson lived on the farm, flying free and proud, forever watching over his family. The end. Adopted by an Owl, the true story of Jackson the Owl. Now, first graders, I also have an extra video that I put in the parent plans that it's a YouTube video that shows you real footage, real video of Jackson the Owl at his home here in Michigan. It's so cute, and it shows Jackson even walking into the house. So try to find that YouTube video with your parents. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.